This is Adjuster Stories, brought to you by Adjuster TV and Veteran Adjusting School. And now your host, Guy Grand.
So welcome to Adjuster Stories with Guy Grand, brother. We're here today and I'm talking with Jaylin, who graduated from Voss, when, March 2024?
Yep.
So you're still a brand new adjuster.
Yep.
You don't, have you run 3 or 4 claims yet?
Plenty. A little over 300 now.
300. Wow. In your first year?
Yep.
Wow, dude, that's so cool. That's so cool. Yeah, so again, we're just gonna freaking talk about your stories, what you did, where you made mistakes, how it all kind of goes together with your training and all that kind of good stuff. So why don't you start out and just kind of tell us a little bit? You were Air Force?
Yeah. So I joined the Air Force in 2018. I worked on drones. I was a drone mechanic. Sorry, it's my dog. I was a drone mechanic and I liked it. But I was just searching for something a little different. But the part of my job that I did like was the inspection side of it. So I liked inspecting a lot, but I didn't like fixing the problems as much. So I was doing some research on jobs that I can get as an inspector on the outside. And I was initially trying to become a home inspector. But doing research there, I stumbled across insurance adjusting. And I realized it was quite similar, but there was more flexibility there on the independent side. So I began chasing that dream, got out of the Air Force, and I worked a disaster restoration job with a company called Schematic. And it was pretty much...
We're gonna leave names off.
Okay.
Because you might not like them or somebody else might not like them.
Got you. So I worked with a company, and it was disaster restoration work. And I was basically just trying to get as close to hands-on experience, as close of hands-on experience as I can get to the adjuster side, the insurance world. Damage. It wasn't quite storm damage, but there was a lot of pipe burst, toilet overflows, dishwasher backup, stuff like that. So I was doing the hands-on part of that and also interacting with adjusters here and there and getting to see what they do. So I knew I wanted to do it. And obviously, probably like everybody else, started watching Adjuster TV and came across Veteran Adjusting School. And from there, I just plugged right into it, called Cheryl. And I just knew I liked it. I knew I would love it. And it's way more than I expected it to be, honestly.
Oh, wow. Yeah. It's funny because before I talk to you guys, I kind of pull up all of your stuff and it was like, drone mechanic, computer systems, disaster restoration, good with a PC, good organization, basic construction. Okay, you're accepted.
Yeah.
But I never get these unless she's already gone through the whole vetting process and knows that you guys are going to be good when you actually come.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you came to the school.
Yeah.
And you knew everything already when you got to the school. You were perfect, right?
Not one bit. I knew nothing, man. The little bit that I did know about disaster restoration was good to tie in, but without that process, nothing that I knew would have done anything in the industry, in my opinion. I wasn't going to be able to do that well.
Yeah, and man, I talk about this with all of these because it's the biggest shortcoming of our industry is that there isn't a process to follow. Right. And which is what made us so much different than everybody else. It's interesting on a couple of these that I've seen, people are like, well, why aren't they continuing the school? And I'm like, dude, I'm 69 years old. Why the fuck do I want to do that?
Yeah.
But it was such a great honor, Jaylin, for you and everybody in your class and all the 46 classes that we did, just to watch you guys now and see how you've progressed and that kind of stuff. How long did it take you to get a claim after you left the school?
Not even a full 2 weeks. It might have been like a week and 5 days.
Wow. Wow. Day claims primarily to start?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
And that's
And
what
they
you
hit fast. They hit, and once I got that first claim, I did my first claim on a Thursday. They gave me one more on that Friday. Nothing for the weekend. But when Monday hit, I probably got like four through the next week. So
wow.
it started coming in pretty fast.
Wow. Trial by fire.
No, I felt comfortable. You walked me through that first claim, and then I felt like that tied into every other claim that I did after that. Not I didn't have the answers for every claim, but I knew how to apply that process to the physical world and actually, it was really it wasn't easy, but it was as easy as I feel like it could be.
Yeah. Nice. Nice. And you've been busy since, well, 300 claims in a year. That's pretty freaking
Yeah.
good.
I've been as busy as I want to be for sure.
Yeah. Have you been able to kind of regulate how busy you are to how busy you want to be?
To be honest, I can take everything that I've been thrown so far.
Yeah. Nice.
I've turned down one time, and I called you about that. I told you that it started to get a little overwhelming and I wasn't able to meet the carrier guidelines.
Right.
And you told me, okay, you did it this one time, but don't do that again. Just notify them next time. Hey, um, you're sending them. I won't be able to inspect within this amount of time, but I would love to take that claim. And they kept sending them, and I
Yeah.
I started taking them, and I haven't had to turn down anything since then.
Yeah. I think, it's so amazing, dude, is I think people get in this business and there's one of two mindsets. One is, I can never say no, which is the mindset you should have.
Yeah,
It doesn't matter if it's 300. We'll talk about that in a couple minutes because I know how far you drove for some of your day claims, right?
yeah,
But you never say no. But if you're getting overwhelmed or you're getting too much, then you just talk to them. Because if they understand that you're going to be 3 or 4 more days, that's easy. That way they can cover whatever they need to cover on their end.
yeah,
But if you take all these claims and then you're not meeting guidelines or deadlines, then they're going to start tripping on you, and all of a sudden somebody else is taking your claims, right?
yeah,
But it
yeah.
sounds like you've been taking other people's claims.
Plenty, 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 plenty. I'm not happy to say it, but I'm happy to say it.
Yeah, right.
Taking
Right.
plenty of people's
Just
claims.
like we talk about in school, right? If you turn in a good claim and you do what you need to do to make it right, then that what we used to say in class, that cuck is pretty soon he's going to wonder why there aren't any claims around his area.
Yeah, yeah. I've spoken to a couple cucks around,
Right? And they're like,
But
God,
yeah,
it's really slow right now. And you're like,
yeah,
yeah, that's what I hear. It's pretty slow, isn't it? That's
right,
bad.
right.
That's bad. It all comes down to your work product,
For
right?
sure, for
And
sure.
I've been talking to a couple people as I've been doing this about training and stuff like that, and you guys are a breed apart. You are the special ops of adjusters, right?
Yes.
I'm not bragging about that. It just is what it is,
Yeah.
because we had 6 weeks to sit with you, and I could tell where you were glitching, and Scott could tell where you were glitching, and so that was easy. Most people in this business don't have that.
Right.
They get out there, they turn in a claim, and if somebody's not there to mentor them or they don't have somebody to talk to, then they're lost, or they think that they're doing a good job when they really suck. So it makes a big,
Yeah.
big, big, big difference for sure.
Yeah.
So tell me about driving to claims. Like everything, you live where in Nashville or somewhere, right?
Yeah. Right south of Nashville, maybe 20 minutes south.
Gotcha.
Um,
All your claims are within that area right there, like within 15 minutes of your house, right? No?
When I first no that when I first turned on with my first company, man, they was sending me all the way to Illinois, parts of Missouri, and I mean, just for one claim. I drove
Right?
to Missouri for one claim. I think it was 4 hours and 25 minutes for one claim. And when I got there, there was no damage, no storm damage. So I was, and you know what made it worse? It was I could only do an exterior inspection because I pulled up and it was a bank owned home. I pulled up and there were wasps swarming out of this second story window. So I knew I wasn't going inside. So I took great photos on the outside, got the other structures, and I even got close to the window and took photos of the inside of the home from the outside, showing that any damage that is here is old. It's nothing here is new. This home has been abandoned for who knows how long. So
Right.
I thought that would be enough to where I wouldn't have to go back out there, but they
They made you
they
go back
allowed me
out?
to charge for a trip charge. They it would have went that way, but what happened was they kept that claim open until the wasps were exterminated. But by the time the wasps were exterminated, I was already on a deployment in South Carolina, so I couldn't handle that claim. I would have drove there. I
Right.
didn't want to, but I would have took that drive again because I would
Right.
get that claim back. But yeah, it
But
worked out.
you know, it's funny because they know that. The IA firms, when you first start working and they're like, oh, I'm going to send you 4 hours away, the guy
Yeah.
that says yes is the guy that's going to get that claim 50 miles away.
hmm
Right.
And that's my case now.
Yeah.
That's my case now.
Yeah. They're, you know, we think that we're out there and everything's going to be, you know, peaches and roses and all the rest of that. But they're really testing you. They're going to give you one claim. See, do you turn it in on time? Well, let me give you two. And then pretty soon they take you to that level where you break, right? I can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
Right. And then they back you back down and they're like, okay, now I know this guy can handle 10 claims a week. Or I know this guy can handle 15 claims a week.
Yes.
And so, you know, it's funny because we all think that it's our job and we get a claim and we're going to do it, but there's so many layers that are on the back end, the file
Yes.
reviewer, the
Yeah.
manager that's checking all the analytics, all that rest, that kind of stuff. It's crazy. It's crazy.
It is. But that's my exact story. The way that you just broke it down, that's exactly how it went. It's
And now-
exactly how it went.
And then when did you do your first deployment?
November. It was Helene. I don't
Helene?
remember the exact date.
Gotcha.
Probably the first week of October, I think.
Well, they were sending you like 10 claims in Kentucky and stuff like that, weren't they?
Yeah.
So that's almost a deployment, but you weren't literally deployed.
Right. So I would go there. I would go to Kentucky for about 3 days and then come back home. And then
Gotcha.
so about 3 days out of every week, I was going to Kentucky.
Gotcha.
Which that helped. That's what made the deployment so easy. And even before Kentucky, Tennessee had a baby tornado, but it was pretty close to my area. So I had gotten maybe like 11 claims at once. And that's when I was probably 3 weeks in. So that was a baby deployment for me. So, man, you walked me through everything and you walked me through how to speak to this person and communicate properly that I am loving the amount of claims that you guys are sending me and I'm willing to do it. But realistically, I won't be able to turn them all in with this time period, but believe they'll be there very soon after.
Right.
And it worked. It worked out. I know they loved it.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And have you worked for pretty much the same IA firm here?
So before the deployment, yes, it was the same too. I did some commercial like church buildings with one of them, and then the other one was residential, our normal day claims.
Right.
And then I deployed with another one, and I was on the way home. I was like, I'll try another firm on my way home. If they accept me and have some claims for me, I'll stay here for a bit, which that happened. So I went to South Carolina, then North Carolina with another firm, then came home to the firm that I've been working for prior to.
And you let them know before you left that you were leaving. So when you got home, they were able to turn you back on.
Yep.
Right.
Simple. Or maybe 2 weeks before I'm arriving back home, I'm like, hey, just letting you guys know I will be returning. And they told me it was a spot for me for sure.
Yeah.
They're ready for me.
Yeah. Well, that's the other thing. Even some of our guys, on those last storms, right? Had day claims and then just bailed
Mm.
on the firm that they're working for.
Right.
I'm running down with this guy because he pays me more money. And then they come back and they're wondering why they're not getting claims. Well, you literally just screwed the guy that was feeding you.
Yeah.
You know, instead of, they didn't care if you were going on storm when you told them, right?
No, they understood.
As long as you tell them ahead of time so they can figure out, how do I keep the day claims in this area taken care of, even though this guy's leaving. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's I tell you guys this all the time in class, and I talk to you about it and all that, but so many people that are listening to this that maybe are new adjusters or stuff out there, they're just not paying attention to that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So many people get in this business because they think it's going to be a lot of dollars and they're not trained properly. And they go out there and they turn in a shit work product.
Yeah.
And nobody says anything to them because they're just trying to get that claim closed.
That's the important part. They think it's working. They think it's working. Yeah. I've seen that.
And you've done re-inspections too now, right?
Plenty.
Yeah.
Plenty. Yeah.
You go back after the last adjuster did his. He got paid $400. You get paid 90, and you got to fix the whole thing.
Right. And what's funny about that is that's how I got the second deployment. Another adjuster was slacking and they was ready to replace him. So I came and replaced him for those, I think it was 17 claims that he had inspected, but hadn't turned in anything for any of them. So he had photos and everything, but didn't turn them in. And so I had to rerun all 17 claims. But then once I did that, they had another probably 40 for me.
Wow.
So that was nice. That was another adjuster. His trash was my treasure.
It's not good to talk bad about them, but it's good to take their work if they're not doing their job.
For sure. Right? For sure.
So you got on those 17 claims, they paid you as if you were the first adjuster?
Yes.
You did the whole claim?
Yes.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
How were the insureds?
Oh, they were angry. They were angry. Out of the 17, probably like 13 or 14 of them were angry.
Yeah.
And, once I got there, it was much better. But I understand why they were angry. He was promising things that even if he did stay on the claim, you can't promise that.
Right.
You can't promise it at all. So they were expecting a lot. They were expecting a lot. And sometimes I had to disagree. My scope did not align with the scope that he told them that he had scoped, and it's okay. This firm allowed us to communicate our scope, and really they encouraged us to come to an agreement prior to writing the estimate. So
nice.
I had great conversations with roofing contractors and insureds, and I didn't it didn't go over my head one time. It stopped at me every time.
Right, that's perfect.
And I didn't agree every time. I didn't agree.
But you looked them in the eye, didn't you?
For sure. For sure.
Right. That's the bottom line of all of it, right? It's just if you're honest and they, shit, man. People feel the person they're talking to. Yeah. They know if you're being shady. And that first guy probably was in and out, never explained what was going to happen after right? He was like, oh yeah, I'm going to do this and this and this for you. Mm-hmm. So he could be a nice guy and get out of there, and then they're expecting something they're not getting. That's awesome, dude. Freaking good for you. Good for you. And you're just a baby. What are you?
I'm just a baby. I'm 25.
25. Jesus, dude. You got a long ass career ahead of you.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, you're gonna do great at it too, man.
Thank you.
So tell me another story. Pick a story.
So I want to talk about my mistakes, because I did talk about a lot of the great things that I did, but I didn't follow the process all the time. One of my biggest mistakes was overscheduling. When I got that big batch of claims, I was looking at the timelines that the carrier had set, and I was focused on meeting those before even just reaching out and having that conversation, So I scheduled like 4 claims for 7 days straight, no break, no paper day. And a lot of times I had to drive 3.5 hours one way for just one of the claims. And then from that claim, I might have a 2-hour drive. And then from the next, so, it was a lot of driving all day. By the time I get home, it's 9:30 p.m. and I need to be at the next claim, maybe 7 o'clock in the morning. So yeah, I was running myself ragged that way. And I was like, man, he told me this too. He told me. He told me. He told me. Another huge one is the order that I inspect in, and just the way you said it was just the way it happened. I get there and they're like, hey, I want to show you this damage and this damage. And I go in the house first. And then I leave the house and they take me right instead of left. Yeah. Now I'm inspecting front right. I'm like, oh man. So yeah, I definitely miss things or not using the scope sheets. And I just take a photo real quick and forgot to write down what and things like that. So I'm going through my estimate and I'm thinking I'm all done because I put everything off of the scope sheet in my estimate. But then I'm going through my photos, lining up everything at the end. I'm like, I didn't realize I didn't get this gutter, things like that. And I just laugh and shake my head every time. I talk to my wife about it. I'm like, man, he told me. He told me. But I'm glad it's showing up because everything he said would happen is happening.
Well, and it doesn't click as muscle memory until you get up.
Right.
Until you do that. Because you probably walked away from that lady's house and was cracking up at yourself going, oh my God, I knew not to walk in that house, not to take control. Right. Yeah. And that's the thing, Jaylin, that, if we don't take absolute control right at the beginning, then we lose control.
Yeah.
And it isn't about anything else of what the insured wants or anything else. It's about us keeping control so we can make sure we get all of that. Because that's how we take care of the insured, right?
Right.
So,
and that's the bottom line.
Yeah.
I just wasn't confident. Honestly, I thought I was confident, but I wasn't confident enough. I hadn't done the process enough to feel confident in it. So I figured if I didn't follow the way that they wanted it and I tried to do my way in front of them, they would sift out that I'm not a experienced adjuster and they would realize. So, I think it was a confident thing. So I just followed them around the house and I knew it was wrong. And it's not like I was taking pictures. I was just looking. But my brain was already threw off. Now I'm on the inside of the house. So it was hard to start back in the beginning and, because they might take me through the back door. Now I'm gonna expect the backside of the home.
You're looking at the back and you're like, oh, just a minute. I have to run back out front because I have a process and I'm not following it.
Yeah. But that process, what's crazy about the process that I realized is no matter, because, I've worked for maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different or 4 different firms, but probably like 15 plus carriers across those 4. And no matter what they want it to be, whatever they want the file to be like, that process can be applied to that and it can work. Like, there was one carrier that had their own specific grouping tree. I couldn't use the grouping tree, and that's what I followed. Right. And I was like, how am I going to apply the Voss method with this grouping tree? Because I take my photos based off of the Voss's grouping tree, but it still worked. It was a way that I can finagle it around, and it worked.
Yeah.
And once I got it, it was easy.
You can always take their grouping tree and add folders to it because they don't see that.
Right.
All they see is what you turn in, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I was just happy. It was a lot of moments of just looking at my computer, and when it finally clicked, just smile to myself and shake my head. Like, I wanted to call you every time. Like, guess what? It happened again. I went this direction, and somehow the Voss process brought me right back to where I needed to be.
So let me ask you this. So when you went out and did Helene and Milton, this last one, was your process down by then?
Oh, yeah.
And every one of those insureds, when you said, this is what I do, thought you had been an adjuster for a really long time.
Yes, every
Right.
time, every time.
That's the difference. If you're in control, then they feel you're in control.
Yeah, and
And
honestly,
so,
I don't think file review. I don't think anybody but the person that turns me on. Nobody else knows that I'm a newer adjuster.
no, right.
They don't know.
Yeah,
I know that they don't know.
sure. Just by the way you talk and being in control.
Yeah, and when that product gets turned in, once that
Right.
product gets turned in, they definitely know.
That's a big one. Have you gotten any letters from your file reviewers or emails and stuff?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Yeah. Let me actually read a little bit of one of them. It'll probably take too much time to find it.
Go ahead.
But basically, she was very thankful. She thanked me personally for my efforts that I gave to them. And this was in the middle of the deployment. This wasn't after it. After, I got another separate thanks, a personal thank you. So just in the middle of the deployment, I open up a email, and it's from her.
From an insured or a file
No,
reviewer?
this was from this wasn't a file reviewer. This was a
desk adjuster.
the person over the desk adjuster, the person that's over the team of desk adjusters.
Gotcha.
She emailed me personally twice, just thanking me and telling me how appreciative she is for the process that I've been applying. She could tell.
Yeah, dude, it's they look at so much crap every day
Mhm.
that it's not that hard to stand out.
Yeah,
But if they look at one of your claims and then 3 days later they're looking at another one and it looks like that first one they looked at, then they're like, okay, I don't have to. I don't know. I'm not sure if I told you guys this story, but in 2008 during Hurricane Ike, right? My partner, Gary, who's a partner in Voss, was my manager on the storm. And he sat down with me and said, this is exactly how I want every single one of your files to look. I'd been adjusting for years, so it wasn't hard to give it to him, right? But he was like, this is what I want all of them to look for. And I would bet you that he probably didn't review, except for a cursory look, on any of my 100 claims that I turned in after that, because he had 10 other adjusters that sucked.
Yeah.
So he had to look at all of their stuff and go through all their reviews of all the rest of that stuff. And it just by, this is what I'm looking for. Give me this. It was, it made it so much easier for him, which then gives us more claims because we're turning in a consistent work product.
Yeah. I had a similar situation to that in South Carolina. So what they would do is the field manager would send out these weekly emails on things that we can clean up. And I was just so happy because there was never things that I was doing that was on that list. I never had to change the way that I'm doing things based off the list. And it started with reading those guidelines properly, not only reading it, but making a document of the things that stand out.
Right.
And I did that. I did a binder full of things for each carrier, binder full of things for each carrier, and making post-it notes, corkboard. So all of that worked. It all worked.
Yeah.
Everything worked.
Yeah,
all down to the basket at the door, the basket at my computer, everything. I followed it to the T.
I'm so proud of you.
Thank you. My wife, one time she went to grab my keys and she put it down on the desk. I'm like, no, put it in that basket. Put it in that basket.
Yeah. It's so much easier, right?
Yes.
My son doesn't have the ADD that I have. But man, you get in that guy's car and his pen would be like in the little water holder, or the cup holder at the beginning. But that's where he kept his pen all the time. And I remember in the car with him one time, and I grabbed the pen and I wrote it down and I said it, and man, he jumped my ass. He's like, that pen goes right there. I'm like, oh, okay, But that's how we learn.
Yeah, man. That process.
Yeah.
That process. Crazy. It's crazy.
So tell me another story. Tell me a story about an insured.
Okay, yeah, for sure. So in North Carolina, another reinspection. Someone had already gone out there, inspected the whole thing, and 2 weeks went by. He hadn't heard anything. And the next call he got was me saying that, I've been assigned to this claim. The previous guy had to leave due to an emergency, yada yada. He's already going off in my ear. We spent 10 minutes on the phone and I couldn't even get an inspection scheduled. He told me it's a Sunday, first of all, so I shouldn't be calling his phone. I was like, I understand that, sir, and I apologize for that. I don't like to call on Sundays, but I want to get you done as soon as possible. I want to get you inspected and get your claim closed as soon as possible. So I was looking to see you tomorrow morning, first thing tomorrow morning. Hung up on me. So um I asked the field manager whether he wanted to deal with that or can I call. I am confident that I can call a second time on a Monday and get it straightened out. And he told me give it one more chance, give it one more try. So I called Monday, totally different guy. He was still a little aggravated that his claim wasn't handled, but he allowed me to schedule an inspection. I came out and he got back into that previous mode, but this time we're face to face. He starts to point in my face. He's saying, and trust me, the insurance company is going to pay for this. I'm not coming out of pocket, like in my face, pointing in my face. But I was very confident and I de-escalated the situation, did an inspection with him right over my shoulder, right over my shoulder. And I was still confident. I did not feel bothered at all. Now, I did feel like this guy might be a little nutty, but I didn't feel like he's going to look at what I'm doing and feel like he's not taken care of. I felt like once I got out there and he saw what I was doing, he would be confident that I'm going to take care of it. I'm going to see him to the end. And I did. I did. And you don't call back to see how things went, but I'm sure it went really well for him, or as well as it could have went.
Well, and you were at that point, you were following the process.
Oh, for sure.
Right. And so he's looking at you going, oh, he's going left. Everything.
Yep.
And he's watching that,
Yep.
And that's the same, we told you guys this too, but if you're a new adjuster and you just make a checklist and you just tell the insured, I need to follow a checklist, they're going to think you're organized.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have all of that. My clipboard used to be, I probably used to have 10 papers on my clipboard of just the handouts, So I'd be in the middle of a claim just looking through something like I might need some help, Let me make sure I got all my photos. It's telling me what photos I need to take, everything. And follow that. And I was good every time. Never been sent back to take another photo or anything like that, ever.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Never. And it's ingrained now. It's ingrained.
Yeah.
Honestly, the photos that you guys have on the document, a lot of carriers don't even require all of those photos, but they love that I do have all of those photos because it backs up the rest of the file.
Right. Yeah.
It backs everything up.
Well, and again, the inconsistency, not just on the adjuster side, but on the IA firm side and the carrier side, they notice quality, right?
Yeah.
But they're so used to just seeing everything. They don't even try to make consistency because everything is that's SOP. That's the way it always is. It doesn't really need to be, right? So
what I'm really happy about is a lot of times with this one IA firm I run for, they probably I run 5 different carriers for them. I'm not sure how many accounts they have, but a lot of times the desk adjuster calls me, doesn't even go through the file reviewer. I get called straight up and me and the desk adjuster converse on whatever they may want to know about the file. It could be as simple as, hey, I see you did this. What did you mean here? And I clear it up and they don't even ask me to make any corrections to the GLR or anything. It's just, okay, that's all I needed and close it out and keep rolling down the road.
Yeah.
And this IA firm actually tells you don't communicate with the desk adjuster, go through them. But I'm like, they're calling me. There's a reason they're calling me.
Well, and again, that's what a pain in the ass, right? If I'm a desk adjuster at the carrier and I got to call the file reviewer and then the file reviewer has to call the adjuster and then it's that whisper down the lane thing. Nothing ever comes back straight. Yeah, I used to love it when I got. So back in my day, our claims would close. And then I got the desk adjuster, and they would say, "Well, can you change this?" Well, I couldn't change it because it had to get reassigned to me.
Mhm.
Right. So then I'd be like, "Okay, now you need to call the file reviewer and tell them that you talked to me," and they so reopen it. And it just come back open, and then you fix it. You keeping these desk adjusters' names and numbers?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh
Right.
yeah. Oh
Right.
yeah.
Because that is I know we talked about this in class too, that you could be working for a carrier and you could be the main guy in Nashville for that carrier. And when that IA firm loses that contract and they get a new IA firm, those desk adjusters are going to keep you busy because they know you're turning in the right work product for them. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
So one other thing that I was really excited about, probably maybe 3 months in or so, 3 to 4 months in or so, they started giving me supplements. So I was handling supplements, and once I got those down, I was like, "This is great. This is great that they trust me to do it." That
Dealing
was
with the
just
contractor,
confirming. What's that?
dealing with the contractor
Yeah,
and
yeah.
adding things. Oh, nice.
Adding and taking away as well. And
Nice.
I felt good that the contractor definitely didn't know how new or experienced I was. I know he probably thought I was 5 years plus in at least.
Right.
He didn't question my calls, and I'm like, no, and I'm disagreeing a lot of times. And sometimes I'm agreeing. Sometimes I may have overlooked something, and that's okay. We converse and figure it out. But a lot of times I'm not agreeing with them, and they're not mad about it. They understand. I break it
Right.
down and they understand. And that saves the desk adjuster from having to go back and forth with them. You
Correct.
know, a lot of times I can't, I can only do what the carrier guidelines allow me to do.
Right.
So sometimes it has to go back to the desk adjuster. If you want this thing that you're asking for, I can't give that to you. But a lot of times I can handle that claim, and the desk adjuster never have to speak to that contractor. So I
Right.
feel good about that as well.
Right. Well, so here's one, and I just experienced this with the roof here at the Willenberg house, right?
Mhm.
So 10% waste factor is typical on a roof, but that usually covers the starter row,
Uh-huh.
right? On the waste factor. Well, this roof was like 4% waste factor without the starter row.
Okay.
So there's a way, and this gets back to what you're talking about, guidelines, right? If they say
Mhm.
you can't add starter row, then you can't add starter row. So therefore, you have to give him more in waste factor so he can afford the starter row.
Yeah.
So if that's the argument, it's like, look, I know this is probably only 5% waste because this is a simple gable with an extension. So I'm going to give you 10% waste, which is going to cover your starter row. Is that going to work? Great. And
Yeah.
that's all they're looking for, right? They're just
Mhm.
looking for, how does this work so I can make it work, and how do I justify this to my boss, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And the bummer is that we don't, you know, once you really understand this, and now that you've done 300 claims, you know what a roof is and what it takes to put a roof on, right? But being able to actually convey that to somebody else, whether it's a carrier or whether it's somebody else, we're stuck with what we're stuck with. So how do I switch that around and still make everybody happy?
Yeah.
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 Yeah. It's cool.
I love it.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's see. Jesus. Dude, man, 36 minutes goes by freaking quick, don't it?
36? That's crazy.
We haven't even got started yet. No, it's freaking crazy, and I'm really really digging this. I think this is going to be great for the industry, and I think people just listening to your stories and stuff like that, and my stories,
Yeah,
is going to help that new adjuster. And
for sure.
yeah, I'm I'm really glad to do this with Matt because he has so much going out there with the adjuster TV, and so many people are listening to it.
Yeah,
It's going to be cool. Got
it
any
is.
other stories to tell me?
Let's see.
Tell me about doing a reinspection. Think about
Okay.
your greatest cuck.
Yeah, okay. So, I had one guy, he went out, and I guess he was a newer adjuster for the IA firm. He's supposed to be a 5+ year experienced guy, but he had just gotten on with this IA firm, made contact, uh scheduled an inspection, did his inspection, and he turned in photos. He turned in estimate. It just didn't align. It wasn't great enough for the desk adjuster. So I get a call. Are you available to take this claim in this place? I'm like, absolutely. So they didn't tell me it was a re-inspection at first, but anyway, I look in the file in the document section and I just see that there's already photos and there's already an estimate there. So I look at his photos, completely out of order, no labels on some of them, very super vague labeled on some of them. No process, obviously. That's what I'm getting at. No process. And looked at the estimate, and I hadn't been there yet, so I couldn't say much about the estimate. But I went to do the inspection, got there, completely took everything that he had done, dumped it out of my mind. I'm like, I'm going to start this fresh with my process and just get home, see how my thing aligns to his. And it was completely different. And initially, this was early on. Initially, I was nervous because it was like, okay, this is a 5+ year guy saying this. I'm newer saying this, but I am confident in my process. I know based on that process, I have to be in this ballpark of right. I'm not saying I'm 100% correct, but I am in the ballpark of right. But it's way different from his. And I actually got a call from the desk adjuster thanking me personally for what I had done compared to his. My file was much easier to follow. It made sense. So I just looked at that like anytime I get a re-inspection, it sucks that there's an adjuster that didn't perform for whatever reason, but it's an opportunity for me to gain something.
Sure. Well,
that made me happy.
And that's the thing, if you don't have a process of how you take photos, and you just and they're all out of order, right? That file reviewer spent 45 minutes before they called you to send you that reinspection.
Right.
So there's somebody getting paid 45 minutes for some guy's bad claim, and then you get it and you start looking at the photos and you're like, what? Overview, damage,
Yes.
overview,
Yep.
damage, overview, right? And you're like, what the hell is this guy trying to tell me? Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm hoping this new program that we're coming out with will help the industry is, just create a process. We won't have the time that we had with you guys to create the muscle memory, right? Because I was sitting with you for 6 weeks every single day and on the weekends and everything else, right?
Yeah.
So I was confident by the time you guys left class that at least that muscle memory was starting to get solid up there.
Yeah.
This thing that we're trying to do, we're literally just going to be able to give them the information, show them the process, and then it's going to be up to them whether they make that muscle memory or not.
Yeah, and it will behoove them to look at how much proof you have.
Right.
You have plenty of proof of adjusters saying that they've had a successful story so far. However far along they are in their journey, it's been overall successful.
Yeah.
So that's the proof you need. That's all the proof you need.
Jaylin, and think about it, man. You graduated, you had a claim within 15 days. You've run 300 claims in your first year, right? There's a reason. There's a reason for that. And whether or not somebody comes to veteran adjusting school, which they're not going to because I'm hanging out, whether or not but being trained and just following a freaking process, holy crap. It will change the world for so many adjusters. And if somebody thinks they really want to do this, like you said, that guy's a 5-year adjuster that you were talking about re-inspecting. That guy's been turning in that work product for 5 years.
Yep.
And thinking he's good. And saying he has 5 years work experience.
Yeah.
Right?
he has nothing to compare it to. He doesn't
Correct.
know that he's,
Correct.
It
Correct.
sucks.
Exactly.
It sucks. It does suck.
And the IA firms are hurting for, especially during storms, right? They're just hurting for having somebody. And so they're not going back and saying, well, you can make your work product better by doing this. And here we have this process. And because they're cucks who became managers.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to say anything bad about all my partners, but some of them every now and then. Right? And that's why a lot of times when you're out on a storm, you get a manager that's just yelling and screaming at you about something, and you're like, what are you talking about, dude? And it's because they didn't have a process when they were adjusting. Then they became a manager because they had a friend that hired them.
Yeah.
And
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
no, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I've had managers tell me, don't do this or don't do that, a part of the process. And the probably the best part of it that I felt like cleared the whole story, overview, explaining what you're going to be getting into in this file on the first photo, but they didn't like that. They didn't like that. And I think the reason why was because it was something that they weren't used to.
Right.
So it just had to be wrong that way. But I stopped doing it and everybody else likes it. I guess I won't do it for this carrier, but everybody else likes it.
Everybody else, right? Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
there's a carrier a lot of our guys worked for in Florida and Northern South Carolina this year that they don't allow you to identify damage. So
Really?
so their thing with shingles is marring on shingle, even though it's a beautiful hail hit,
Wow.
right? And I think it's because their adjusters can't follow a process and can't write the right things.
Yeah.
So they don't allow them to, because they make all coverage determinations. They look at that Mari and they say, yep, that's a hail hit, I'm buying the roof. It's not like they don't buy roofs. It's just they don't allow their adjusters in their photo report to say anything for that very reason, right? But everybody else likes that the following photos will show.
Oh, yeah.
For sure. Because it tells the whole story.
So one thing that I want to thank you about on a big level is covering trees as well as you guys cover trees. I know for sure I understand trees way more than the average adjuster. On my first deployment, there was plenty of trees that hit homes in South Carolina, and they had sent out an email saying if you are not a specific group of, or if you have not received an email personally, don't handle trees. And I received an email saying that I'm okay to handle trees.
Really?
And that felt good because I'm like, I can understand how this can be very confusing, but you guys made it simple. And you gave us a handout. And I look in my binder and it applies for anybody. Right. Any carrier is going to apply, even down to the F9 note. Everything was beautiful.
And you got to add that other $4,000 to your fee schedule.
It was way more than $4,000 a lot of time.
Right.
That made me very happy.
Right.
Way more.
Right.
I think one tree bill was $17,000.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
They have to bring in cranes and everything else and bring it up. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, it was this small home surrounded by trees. And they all fell. And it was just wrapped over this.
All over the house. All of them hit the house.
And the fence. And the fence.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's so freaking awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for listening.
You're welcome, but thank you.
That other guy sitting behind you that you were sharing a house with didn't listen quite as much. but he's still doing okay. He's following the process.
Mm-hmm. He's still rocking out.
He's still rocking out.
He's still better than the average adjuster, which is crazy.
He's in the top 20%.
You follow a little bit of this process and you'll be great. So if you apply the whole thing, man.
Well, and that's it. God, man. I was so into wanting to retire and just hang out and hike in the Red Rocks and, sitting. I think I might have told you this on the phone not long ago, but sitting in the hot tub watching the sunrise one morning, I'm like, gotta do this. And so, we'll see what happens. The cool thing is I'm not doing it for money.
Yeah.
So I don't really care. but I think that we can really help the industry by
Yes. I
just
really hope that they cling to it. I do.
yeah,
Because they need it. There's a lot of people, and I'm not throwing shade, but honestly, a lot of people can really use it.
yeah.
And it would change your career. It
Well,
would change.
it'll change their career. Plus, it'll get the carriers looking at us as people who are actually doing our jobs correctly and want us to be doing our jobs instead of trying to figure out, can I figure out an AI thing, or can I figure out this, or can I
Exactly.
do that
Exactly.
instead, or something different. And
Yeah.
I talk a lot about climbing roofs and stuff. Do you still measure your roofs?
Yeah. Yeah. Not
Yeah.
all of them. I'm running two firms. One of the firms apply, or they give us sketches.
Ego View. They
Yeah,
do.
yeah, yeah. It's Eagle
Yeah.
View, yeah.
Yeah.
But the other one is manual, yeah.
But just learning how to use your tools, learning how to use Xactimate and what Xactimate can and can't do, and those kind of things. If you're in between storms, like people that go out there and I did Milton, and so now I'm an adjuster. Well, you're not going to work again until freaking June or July of next year, so you might as well start freaking training up now.
Right.
Whatever it is, I don't care who is it, whether it's our process or somebody else's, but figure out how to do this job correctly. So, and that's just going to make all of us look better.
Yeah.
Make all of us maybe fee schedules will go up. If people you climb everything though, don't you?
Oh yeah. Everything.
Yeah. Right. So the guy that's like, oh, I don't go on anything more than a 612. So let me get a ladder assist for $250.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if everybody climbed roofs, then we'd all get more.
And there's a safe. I'm not saying no roof. I'm not comfortable on any roof. I don't love climbing roofs.
Right.
But I feel very safe based on I mean, we took what? Your section was maybe a 2 hour
Right.
course on that was enough for me. I'm teaching roofers safety some of these days.
Right.
Teaching roofers on how, hey, I'm not trying to be a pest, but it's probably safer to do it this way, and this is why. And they thank me all the time.
Right.
They thank me all the time. I'm teaching roofers how to measure roofs sometimes, manually.
Right.
Manually. So that stuff applies, man.
And that's the kind of stuff in between storms that you can go out and do.
Yeah.
Right. One of the other things I think for new adjusters, like the adjuster went out and worked for one of the companies that gave him Xactimate.
Mm-hmm.
Well, spend the $2,000 freaking dollars. Get that Xactimate workbook. Go through the 267 pages. Learn how to use that freaking program. Climb up on a roof. Learn how to measure a roof. Learn how to get on top of a roof and say, this is a hip, this is a gable, this is a Dutch hip. Right? I love taking you guys up to that rodeo house. What's that roof? Well, that's a gable with a hip piece stuck on the front of it, and it's no, that's called a Dutch hip.
Right.
What's Xactimate want to do that kind of roof? And those are the kind of things that, as adjusters, the more we learn, the better we are, the better service we can provide to the insured, the IA firm, the carrier.
Yeah.
More money we make. Pretty simple. It's not rocket science.
You're right.
Sure.
Got
anything else you want to talk about? Because we're freaking almost an hour, dude.
Let me see.
50 minutes.
I think it's a big point that I have never been in an argument with a contractor.
Nice.
And I think it's based on my confidence, and not just my confidence, but my fairness and my experience understanding where this claim is going to go after here, where it came from, and what we're here for today. What we're here for today. Make them feel heard, make them understand. I might not agree with your hail hit, but I'm gonna take a photo of it and put it on the file.
Right.
I might not agree with a lot of things that you say is damage, but I'm gonna let you know. I will, and I tell them sometimes. I wouldn't personally say that's hail, and this is why. Sometimes I even give them that handout that you guys. Well, it wasn't a handout, but there was one of the
That
file
page.
folders in our
Yeah.
yeah. Sometimes I printed a few of those out, and sometimes I hand it out to roofers, like, to save you some time. This is what the insurance company is looking for when we're talking about hail. When
Yeah.
they're talking about hail,
You're
you know,
talking. You say that it's wind because the shingle isn't sealed.
right?
This,
And
this is what they're looking for.
I will not argue with you on that. I will take a picture of my finger lifting it up, but there's no creasing.
Right.
There's no creasing, man. I'm just telling you. Maybe the desk adjuster, but I'm just telling you from my experience what I think it'll do.
And people so appreciate that.
Mhm.
And do you let the insurers know when you're leaving that there's 2 checks coming and that whole process?
So initially, I wasn't, because the firm that I was running for, they didn't allow any of that.
Yeah.
They didn't want us to discuss even the scope, what we saw. They had a 1 sentence statement on what we're supposed to say. Do not deviate from that sentence. And that's all you could say. And it was basically, I'm going to turn in your file to the desk adjuster, and they will make a coverage decision and reach out to you when they've approved the report. Can't say nothing else. How long this may take, I have no idea.
Really?
I can't. Yeah, it sucked. It sucked because I think they deserve a little bit more than that. They don't have to tell. You don't have to tell them an exact day, but can we get a window?
Right.
Something. But that's all I had to go off of. So I that's all I did.
And you with the other companies you're working for, you're allowed to get a little more
Oh yeah.
leeway. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I'm explaining ACV to them, and even to the roofers sometimes, because they might not understand it as much.
Right.
But in RCV, ACV, so sometimes, and actually oftentimes, at the end of my inspection, I'm getting the roofer with me before I leave the house, knocking on the door with to the insured,
Sure.
and I'm explaining probably what he should be explaining, but he may not understand as much.
Right.
So really, at the end of my speech, and it's not that long, at the end of my speech, the roofer is like, yeah, so pretty much what he said, and just follow up off of what I say. So I think I wrap up both of, like, they don't have to speak much.
And they're like,
So,
wow, you look really young, but you must have been doing this for so long.
oh yeah, I get that all the time. I get that all the time.
How long have you been doing this? Long enough.
Long enough.
Long enough.
Long enough, with a big smile, man.
Exactly.
With a big smile, yeah.
I can take care of it. Right on. Jaylin, thank you so much for doing this with me. There'll be many more, I'm sure. And if you think of any like awesome story or something comes up, let me know and we'll do this again. It's a trip, dude. Because I sent out that email to everybody and I'm like, okay, who wants to broadcast or who wants to podcast with me? Well, I probably have a year's worth of, so this thing might come up every twice a week instead of once a week. Yeah. I really think, and this was a great conversation that will help people that are new, or maybe even a cuck that's been out there for 5 years.
Yeah.
That's listening to this or watching this somewhere in between and be able to be like, wow, now I see how that applies. And it's just going to make our industry better. So
you're welcome. And thank you so much. Thank you on the behalf of me, on the behalf of my class, on the behalf of Voss, on the behalf of the industry. Thank you. Seriously.
You're welcome.
You made a huge impact. And such a simple process has changed so much in a lot of people's lives, not just us, but the insured. Any insured I come across, I know I was the best adjuster that they will ever come across or have ever came across. I know it.
Yeah, it's awesome. In over the course of the next year or so, you're going to go to people's houses that'll be like, I had an adjuster on another claim, and he just wasn't anything. You'll be
all the time, all the time.
Yeah, you're like
those re-inspections. They tell me they're already mad at him because he didn't turn in their claim, but they tell me just the way that I inspected was way different than the way that he inspected their home.
Yeah.
They know that I've actually covered the whole thing. If damage is there, I caught it.
Yep. And the more we do that, the less need there's going to be for people to have PAs and freaking lawyers and all the rest, which is only damages the industry because it raises everybody's rates.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you so
brother.
much, Guy.
All righty, man. I'm gonna let you go.
All
Here we go. That's another Adjuster Stories with Guy Grand.
Check out more Adjuster Stories with Guy Grand right here.